And the number one way we can spot American tourists in Europe has changed infinitely in the last 5 years. COVID made a big dent in the change to this happening. So today we are going to look at 7 new ways in 2024 you can spot an American tourist in Europe. And it's not a bad thing, okay?
I hate America!
It's not a bad thing to be a tourist. I love going to America. It's like one of my favorite things that I get to do. By the way, 1,000 videos this week I hit. I'm not quite at 1 million subscribers yet, but I'm not afraid of the grind. Hooray for me! For every 10 minutes of her having fun on camera, it's at least 4 hours of editing for me. But yeah, hooray for her. Yeah, my side of it's definitely the more fun part. And the most fun part is when I get to travel to America and be a tourist in your country. A lot of times people ask me, would I like to move to America? And the answer is right now, no. I love being a tourist. I love that I get to experience the continent of America as a tourist. And I'm noticing a lot more Americans visiting Europe in the last 5 years than ever before. The world is becoming a smaller place with technology, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Oh, by the way, to celebrate 1,000 videos, I got my nails done. Nail art. This cost €55, by the way, in Spain. I believe in the USA, getting a similar thing would like be a couple of $100. You gotta do little things for yourself, though. You know, it's all relative. So, some familiar ways we know we can spot Americans that I'm not gonna delve into today. You're a lot smilier. You are a bit louder.
A bit.
Obviously, you have an American accent. And tipping. Americans tip, which is nice for the people in restaurants and stuff. But let's jump into number 7. It's how you carry your phones. So bum bags have always been a giveaway, or fanny packs as you call them. And they are a really good way of carrying your stuff, especially when you're in an unfamiliar place. You have your stuff on your person and it's less likely to get swiped than it would in like a backpack. Backpacks are easier for the pickpockets. And if anybody has been watching social media lately, you may have seen these videos going viral. I think it's in France or Italy, where these people go around calling out pickpockets, particularly on the subway.
Attenzione pickpocket! Attenzione borseggiatrici pickpocket!
Pickpocket! And it definitely is a thing in tourist areas that people pickpocket. I believe that also happens in the USA too. You need to keep your wits about you wherever you go, particularly when you're in a new country. But obviously in 2024, the most valuable thing we're carrying around isn't even our wallet, it's our mobile phones. Our cell phones. Well, maybe your wallet's more valuable than my cell phone. But people are becoming more conscious about how they carry their phones around now. Most of me and my European friends carry our phones around with wristlets. You put the thing around your wrist and you carry your phone like that. But Americans, I have noticed, carry them around on long chains and they like hold them like this. Like so they have access to them on their neck. I have not seen any Europeans wearing their mobile phone like that. Also, I've seen Americans who have them like attached to their person, like their belt or their bag. And again, it's just not something that has caught on so much in Europe. We're big fans of the wristlets. And I think whatever you're using is a good thing. You do need to be cautious in areas you're not aware of, particularly tourist areas, because people do target tourists. When you're looking around and you don't look like you know what you're doing, try to always look like you know what you're doing. But these cord things are actually a pretty good idea. Okay, the next one is how you tidy up after yourselves in restaurants. Okay, tipping culture, love it or hate it, seems to be there to stay in the United States, but it has definitely affected how you treat the server process. Even the fact that you guys call them servers, we would more commonly call them waiter or waitress in an abundance of languages. Server is like, you're here to serve me, which is the case, especially when you're tipping 20%.
What's with the 20% tip? Did I do something wrong?
And as a result, I think we can all acknowledge American people do tend to be more demanding with how they place their orders, in the sense that they have dietary restrictions and they have no qualms about coming forward about what they want, because they're like, you're here to serve me and this is what I want. So often you'll see American people being like, I want salad, but I don't want it with walnuts. Also in the USA, a lot more generically restaurants cater to dietary needs. That is not so much the case in non-specialized places in most of Europe. For example, my sister-in-law is vegan and she would always have to like search the menu unless we went to like a place that specializes in vegan stuff, and there might be like 1 or 2 things she could eat. Now, I will say there is a big distinction from what I have seen between Western Europeans and Eastern Europeans. Western Europeans are a lot more just like, they'll take what they're given, whereas Eastern Europeans I have observed are a little bit more demanding about what they want. Not saying that's a bad thing, but I have seen them like ask waiters to come over and pour their drink because that's how it's done there. Whereas, especially where I'm from in Ireland, it's very much like, no, everything's fine, even when it's not. Culture, eh? It's a funny old thing.
No, I'm massively allergic to peanuts, but I'll just pick them out with my gloves on. It's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Not your fault. It's my fault, actually. I did tell you, but no, it's totally my fault.
That's the Irish way. We're like, it's fine. Now, in the USA in the last 5 years, you guys have definitely started to bring in, particularly in fast food venues, more recycling facilities. But it's still not as much as we have in Europe when it comes to like distinct recycling things that are very widespread in a lot of fast food places. To me, it's like very alien to go into a fast food place and when you're done to pour the whole tray into one bin. Like that is what we did maybe 10 years ago, but now you have to separate your paper from your plastic and your food waste. That's just how they do it in most parts of Europe, fast food places. I have noticed a lot more Americans, particularly since COVID in the USA, will throw their stuff in the bin after eating in a fast food facility. But taking it one step further in just general restaurants here, it's not uncommon for people to kind of gather their things for the waiter or waitress. Like I have some friends who will like pile up everybody's plates when we're done in a restaurant so that it makes it easier for the waiter or waitress to carry. Or for example, when I go to my local coffee place and I order a coffee for me and some water for Mr. Chewy, when we go up to pay our bill, I will generally pick up the bottle and the coffee cup and go up. Oh, also we tend to go up to the till. Whereas, oh my goodness, you have not. In the USA, usually the bill will come to you. It does in some places. That's very 50-50 in Europe. Some places you go up and some places it comes to you. The next thing, and I think this will come as no surprise to anybody, but again, it has definitely stepped up in the last 5 years, is water bottles. I recently saw a video by one of my favorite creators, James Welsh, about this. Oh my gosh, was it Robert?
And this is your weekly reminder that we are not the same person. Are you different?
I love them both. And he was talking about how Americans bring water bottles everywhere, and it is so true. And also he was talking about how the fact that a lot of Americans are like, where do Europeans get their water? Like, do they not drink water? Because Americans are always having their water bottles with them. In most places in Europe, we can drink water straight from the tap, and we do. So it's not as common to need to carry around a water bottle, but the whole Stanley Cup phenomenon did hit Europe in a big way. Especially gym people carry around water bottles a lot. But Americans do seem to be constantly having hydration available to them 24/7 in the form of big, huge water bottles. Did you know you can actually overhydrate? That's a thing. I learned that recently off TikTok. Yeah, you can overhydrate. Who knew? But you can, apparently. Right now it's really hot where I am, and I always carry around water with Chewy, but I do find it really irritating to have to carry it around with me. But like when we're going for a walk up a mountain or something.
It's a lie. Is it?
Well, not so much a mountain, more of a hill. There's not going to be water immediately available, so I do carry it around, but habitually I would find it really annoying to have to bring around one of those big, huge water things, but I guess it's like a practical thing more so. But if you're visiting here as a tourist, there is just water readily available to you everywhere. It might not be iced. It might not have ice. The next thing is Americans are very, very organized when it comes to apps abroad and their itinerary planning. Now, when you go to another country, for example, when I go to the USA, I do tend to plan my days a lot more than I would like when I'm just at home or something. Like, it makes sense. You're there for a limited time. You want to plan stuff. But you guys in America, you are next level with this. You're very good at organizing from my viewpoint. Americans find apps I didn't even know existed about towns and history stuff. They will have their Google Maps route planned out to a T, and they got them on their little phone with the chain. Something I would warn Americans about visiting Europe with your itineraries, and I always see this on the Ireland Reddit board. People get way too ambitious about seeing the whole country in like a week, because I think the perception is people are like, oh, you could travel across the whole country in 6 hours. And yes, that is true, but it's not roads as you know them. Like in America, roads are like one straight line. You're on like a motorway or a dual carriageway. But when you're traveling roads in somewhere like Ireland, there's like a lot of twists and turns. You could very well miss turn-offs for things. It's a stressful drive. But I always see people trying to plan their itinerary on the boards. They're like asking local Irish people what they think. What do you think of this itinerary? And people are like, you have way too much crammed into a week. So just be mindful of that if you are traveling somewhere, you know, if you're in one really lovely village in Ireland, maybe you don't need to go to 12 other lovely villages in Ireland, but maybe 2 or 3 if you're there a week, you know? The next thing I have noticed is American people's reluctance to use public transport in Europe. Now, I think actually this somewhat depends on what region you're from in America. Like New Yorkers, they are very used to using public transport, whereas people from California are a bit more like, is it okay? Some parts of Europe using public transport is just the logical best way to go because there's not a lot of parking, for example, in some places. If you're familiar with me and my channel, I am a passenger princess, so I definitely go for public transport, like if it's there. Sometimes you're surprised when I go to the USA and I do use public transport. People are like, oh my God, no. And I'm just like, well, I mean, it's there. Why not use it? But if you are visiting Europe, maybe do check out like how the locals get around. And sometimes using a bus or even scooters. Scooters have become really popular to rent now in some places. You know, the ones you use with your foot. Actually, they don't use them with their foot. They've got electrical stuff. I am not balanced enough to use one. I'm afraid to use one. But a lot of people get around on them. Also, things like Uber, Bolt are way cheaper than using the national taxi service. Ireland has a deregulation thing. I think that might be changing. I think Bolt might be coming into Ireland soon. But they could only allow official Irish taxi services there, but they are infinitely more expensive than things like Uber and Bolt. Ride-sharing apps. Spain has another one called BlaBlaCar, and it literally is like hitchhiking, but with reviews. So for example, if somebody's going from Marbella to Madrid, it's like you can hitch a ride with them and you pay them like a nominal amount of money and you just kind of keep them company. It's very good, very handy. But for example, one night recently I was out with a bunch of girls and one of them insisted we get an official taxi to drop us home. And the taxi for a relatively short distance of 10 minutes for me was €25, whereas in the ride sharing apps it would have been like about €12. And the number one way we can spot American tourists in Europe has changed infinitely in the last 5 years. COVID made a big dent in the change to this happening. It's your use of payment methods. So up until COVID, I actually felt parts of Europe were a touch, funny, a touch more advanced than parts of America when it came to tap payment. Like contactless payment, I think it's more commonly called. And that's because countries like Ireland, the place is very small, so it's easy to quickly spread out a new type of infrastructure like contactless payment very fast, whereas spreading it across like nationwide, a place like America is going to take a lot longer. And obviously with the events of COVID, it was a thing that became a necessity. So we were using Apple Pay when I found in the States people more so were using chip and pin. I remember I rocked up to one restaurant with my card that I usually tap and they were like, oh, chip and pin, we only have chip and pin. And I was like, oh, I don't remember the number. Can't remember how we fixed that. I didn't end up washing dishes though. Since COVID in America, everywhere has contactless payment. Like I have not been in one place that does not have it. Oh no, wait, Walmart would not take Apple Pay. And I found that crazy. It was a Walmart in Anaheim. It wouldn't take Apple Pay. They were like, we do not accept Apple Pay. And I was like, you're Walmart, what? But 99.9% of places do take Apple Pay. In recent years, countries like Spain have brought in an additional payment fee on contactless payment for businesses. And because businesses don't want to raise their prices for the customers, they are asking you actively to use cash. So it is not uncommon to go into a restaurant or a salon or something like that and see on the wall, we do not accept card payment here, only cash. And you'd be surprised how easy it is to miss those signs. Particularly independent, small businesses will have up signs that say like, card payment is killing small businesses. Please support your independent businesses and pay cash. I don't know if some of those people are dodging their tax, but that's a story for another day. As a result of this, in some countries in Europe, there has been a huge revision to contactless payment. Like, you should not leave your lodgings in Europe without some cash on you, because you might just run into a business that only accepts cash. And I have seen Americans get caught out with this when it comes time to pay. It is quite blindsiding when you are used to paying by card for everything to suddenly need to use cash. And most of the time, businesses do have a card machine in the back somewhere, but they don't like to accept the card. Something I always tip for, by the way, in Europe is like going to a salon, getting your hair or your nails done. And recently I tried to add the tip onto the card and they wouldn't accept it. They were like, we only take cash tips. Fortunately, I had cash because I've run into this problem before. Another thing Americans, by the way, have relating to contactless payment is these RFID wallets, and they are quite a good idea. I have not seen a European with one at all. Basically, they're these wallets that you can't like just go up behind somebody and tap their card if their card's in their back pocket or something. They do seem to be a good idea. So let me know below if you have one. The only reason I've been able to get to 1,000 videos and this has become my full-time job is because of platforms like Patreon or channel membership. I do not do a lot of sponsors, so if you can support me that way, I would really appreciate it. Otherwise, please leave a comment underneath to feed the algorithm that brings more people to the video. It is a big help. Thanks. So let me know below in comments wherever you are from how you can spot a foreign tourist in your country. I'd be super interested if Europeans have any tells. Thank you so much, guys. That's it for today. See you on the other side. Bye.
Thank you for 1,000 videos, guys.